being an independent musician in 2024? That's what we're going to discuss in this roundtable with two artists who release their independent music through TuneCore and a manager who works with one of TuneCore's biggest artists. I'm Amit Gurbaxani. I'm a music journalist, and with me today are singer-songwriter Yohan Marshall, hip-hop and electronic music producer Hrishi, and artist manager Meher Sachdeva, who works with UnderTheRadar, the roster of which includes Ritviz, Dorvin John, Wild Wild Women, and coincidentally, Yohan. Let's start off with a really simple question, and I guess we can start with Meher and then take it down from there. How is 2024 for you?
Honestly, I think 2024 has been a really interesting year. I think post-pandemic, there were already a lot of shifts and turns that the live industry was seeing, that music was seeing. And I think 2024 has been a year of a lot of reconciliation with those changes and a sort of stabilization in the forum. I think obviously with the international markets opening up the way that they have, there's just been a lot of cross-cultural work going on, and that's been super exciting. And I think from the perspective of everything our artists have been doing, it's been a really fun year to exist in music.
Yeah. Any highlights for your artists?
A couple. I mean, I think we released our first song with Yohan, Kali Rate, which was a big one for us both. I think with Ritviz, we obviously had Meherban, which was super exciting because it was Hassan.
Yeah, so when you talk about the cross-cultural sort of exchange, that's one of the things.
Absolutely. And it was such an incredible experience to be able to work with his team. Then we had Nazaare, which was a very big shift on the brand front for us. Not at all something we were expecting. And Vim is a very random integration to have, but it was such a fun project to execute.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
More about that in a little bit. But yeah, Yohan, what about for you? Apart from, signing up with these guys.
I mean, that is a great highlight.
We didn't pay him to say that.
In general, 2024 it's been an excellent year actually. So what has happened with me is I do so many different things within music. So I've been an artist this entire time where I'm putting out my own music. I also produce a whole lot. I'm very big into music education, and I just curate a lot of stuff as well. All of these things have sort of come together this year really well. And in terms of a highlight, I'd say with releasing music, the last 2 years, especially this year, I've taken content very seriously. So I've put out actually 4 songs this year, and 2 of them have been collaborations. One with Mali, Just for Once, and the most recent one with Alisa, Kali Rate, with Meher and the team as well. And some really nice performances. I've been playing a lot with Oaf and Savera, my childhood friends. So a lot of different avenues that I was toying around with have really come to fruition, and I feel like I'm doing all of those things at a really good level.
Yeah.
And the market is in a great place. So the year has been fabulous.
Yeah, wow, that's a really positive,
like
a great year. And Hrishi, you've had a pretty big year too.
So one of the main highlights is I released 7 music, so which is huge. Like every year I release max to max 2, 3. So out of 7, I dropped 1 as independent, and out of 7, 6 I dropped as through record label.
Okay.
Out of which 1 is Mass Appeal and 1 is Saina from Kerala. Okay. It's an independent label from Kerala. And also talking about music, we started a label called Karup Label. Karup Label. So me, my team, and Vedan, we started a label for in Kerala. We signed Gabri. He's an artist from Kerala.
Okay.
So that's what happened, and I moved to Bombay. Now Bombay is my base now.
Oh, yeah, welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome to Bombay. And how do you spell your new label's name?
Huh?
How do you spell it?
Karup Records.
Okay.
Karupp Records.
Okay. And
Karup means black.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you had these are all hip hop releases, right?
Yeah.
All majorly.
Oh no! Out of 1 that independent record, it's an EDM record.
ATM record.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's the one that you just put out.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I put that out in the month of Jan.
Okay.
Early 2024.
Cool. So and we're going to go a little more deeper into that also. But Yohan, I wanted to first talk to you about you've had a pretty long career. You've been doing this for a while. You started off as an English singer-songwriter. Recently, I think from last year onwards, you started releasing stuff in Hindi, and automatically you've seen that your Hindi tracks are getting like 10 times the number of streams at least, than your English stuff did. And, this is quite like, it's sometimes a pretty tough shift for an artist to make, especially if you're not someone who necessarily thinks in Hindi, right? You think in English. But you managed to make this sort of transition and do it in a way that it works for you. So I wanted to ask you, how did you go about doing that?
That's a really interesting question, and it has quite a detailed answer. So, yes, to an extent, I have seen the streams go up, but I wouldn't say that my English material was so far. I'd set up a really nice base with my English material. There was certain challenges when it came to writing in Hindi, and I must give a shout out to my friend Ruel Benedict, who sort of pushed me and said, "Hey, man, this is a really nice song, and I wonder what it would be like if you sat with someone and rewrote this in Hindi and tried it." So it was that push that really got me thinking, and I was really afraid because, like you said, I don't think in Hindi. I feel like I write really well in English. I can express myself really well. And there was this block in my own head where I believed that I couldn't do it. And I think I wrote that first song. I released that song with Riya Duggal. It's called Manja Zara. I think I wrote that and rewrote that with two lyricists and really found a way to go about it. And once I took that song, it was a song that felt happy and positive and just nice. And we shot a really nice video for it. And a really big other factor for me was, so I come from Ahmedabad, and I have unbelievable support from there. Family, friends, people who know me very well, not so well. And I realized that in such a beautiful market, because there are huge concerts in Ahmedabad, people want to get behind what I'm doing, but the language is a barrier. And I love this country, and I live here, and I want to continue to live here, and I want to thrive here, as an artist. So I'm very happy I took that challenge on. And if, I know you're not asking, but if suppose somebody asked me that, hey, would you push other musicians to do this? I most definitely would. Even if you don't put it out, experiment with making something with in a different language, because I didn't think I could do it, but I'm so happy that I tried it.
And I guess sometimes a lot of artists, not you, but like you said, sometimes they feel that this is inauthentic, or maybe I'm selling out, but you never felt that.
The very first time I worked with a lyricist, I did feel like, how is this process going to happen? But I made that process work. Like, I write in English, and then I sort of submit it to this lyricist, and we start discussing, and the lyricist is like, hey, what about this line? And I'm like, I would never say that. I would never say that line. A, it sounds like it's from Sholay. And B, I don't know what 3 of those words mean. So it's like I really had to come to terms with my style, how I like to keep music minimalist and simple, and sort of let that translate into how me and this lyricist would work together. Big shout out to Neeraj Patil, who's a really good friend of mine and a lyricist who I drive absolutely insane when we're doing this.
So he's now basically the one who helps you write all the lyrics. That's really interesting. I mean, considering that it's basically, and I know that I think Nikhil D'Souza also does similar things where he will write in English and work with his lyricists. So but I mean, I guess as long as you're enjoying it, you feel this is you just in a different way.
Absolutely. In fact, Hrishi, probably you're going to feel this too. When you produce and write music, you don't really put out everything that you write. You may write and produce something, it's nearly done. It sounds really good. You give it a break, you come back 3 days later and you hear it and you're like, you know what, this is really nice, but I'm not going to put this out because for whatever reason, it doesn't feel like me. Or sometimes just my music, I've picked this lane and this one is just completely left of center. So I write a lot more music than I end up putting out. So the ones I do put out, I need to enjoy them and I need to be able to represent that music when I'm playing it live.
I can add to that because I have produced some of the best hits from Kerala, but some of the tracks which I produced, I haven't even put my name because it's not my sound. But that track has significantly done numbers. But just because it's not my sound, just because it doesn't represent me, that's why I did the ghost production side. I was like,
Yeah.
bro, this is not me. Don't put my name. I'll be the ghost producer in it.
Yeah, and I was hearing this about this. The producer didn't tell me, but somebody who knows a producer told me about how basically there's this producer who actually has stopped putting his name, and he works a little bit in the film scene. And then what happens is when he plays his live gigs, people expect him to play the film stuff.
Yeah.
But that's not his like core sound. I mean, he does like core hip hop, and so I guess that's also like a conscious decision. But with you, I mean, you've actually also decided to take a bit of a pivot now. You produce you work with like all the big, I think every major sort of rap out of Kerala, like Vedan, Dabzi, all of them, Street Academics.
It was my debut track with Street Academics.
You've done work with all of them, but now you've sort of made a conscious decision that you're going to focus on being an electronic music producer, which is what you want to start out with. And how you started out. So, what made you take that call? And it has to be like a tough decision to make.
No.
Right?
I used to focus on my solo career, but it was like for financial stability and all, I used to produce for others, and I used to be a DJ, hype man for other rappers as well. That gave me, मेरे घर पे music is not a thing, so I have to find my ways to earn money. So I started earning my money. I'm kind of like, it's time that I take that step to the next level, taking my stuff and put a live act which represent myself. In fact, Fred again was a big inspiration for me. Like, he used to produce for the biggest of biggest artists like Ed Sheeran and all. But when he started focusing on himself, whole industry changed right around him. Like, he's selling out, like, everyone knows Fred again, bro. Bro, but like Fred again gave me that inspiration to go out and put yourself first and make the music you love. Put your name first, put your act first. Rest everything will follow. Now I'm following that path, and I'm loving the music I'm making.
Yeah, that's great. And you moved to Bombay, and that's part of the reason why.
I have did my master's studies over here, so I love Bombay. Now back here, enjoying the winters over here right now.
Winter? What winter? It's colder here. It's the AC that
No, it's pretty cold right now. I guess last Wednesday was the coldest November.
I'm going to exit this conversation.
Meher from Delhi.
Take my flight back to Delhi.
Will be like, bro.
Yeah.
It's like,
गर्मी लग रहा है.
but why did you have to make this move, like to shift cities?
Yeah, because down south, if you play drum and bass to a local crowd, they don't vibe actually. They only want side trance or whatever is in 4x4 and high BPM, they vibe to that. The culture is shifting, but it will take some time. But I need my bread and butter, so that's why I moved to Bombay.
So it's basically going to be live sets and electronic music production.
100%.
That's going to be quite like a difficult decision to make, right? Considering that you are, like, I guess, within the Kerala scene, quite well known in the hip hop community. And so when I asked you what your highlights were, of course, one of the things you mentioned was Nazaare, and that is really interesting because traditionally when you talk about brand association, it's always been in the alcobev space. Like a dishwashing soap is not the first thing that comes to mind when you think of like an electro pop musician approaching, coming and doing a track with them. So tell us a little bit about that and how that happened, and how are these things evolving?
I think the interesting thing about the brand space, and I think influencers saw this first, of making the switch to choose things that felt authentic to them, but that they could actually vouch for a product, right? And I feel like influencers really had to make that shift. I think with musicians, even more so, there was like a reclamation of your digital territory, right? Because essentially you're saying, not only am I putting myself out there as an artist, but this is generally like who I am. Now, if I'm doing something that doesn't support it, I'm being called out for being inauthentic, or it feels untrue to myself, right?
And also it's kind of like your music is heard at clubs. You're going to be like, your audience is having a drink, so it all makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like,
though, agreed. But
although you might be listening to music while washing the dishes.
I do.
But that was the whole hinge of the campaign, right? Like, they actually reached out to us and they said, our mission is to make dishwashing fun. And for HUL in general, and then obviously with subsets like Vim, their whole thing is like, how do we make chores interesting again? And they don't want it to be termed
How
as
do we
a
make
chore.
chores interesting?
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? And most people, if you watch the video, it's like a bunch of people dancing, and it's like time can pass by quicker if you're having fun
Yeah.
with it, which is actually such a simple and like intuitive notion
Yeah.
for most of us, is that if you're actually just like in it, it's not really going to seem
Yeah.
so hectic. And I feel like when they reached out, we had this conversation of saying, like, is it, like, where is the sync? What is the integration?
Yeah.
Is it something that we see Arithva is like really vibing with? But really for him, it was that of saying that, like, honestly, his music has always been fun, and it's
Yeah.
been resonated with that kind of space of like, it's groovy, but it's melodic, and it's got its like,
Yeah.
you feel like getting up and dancing, and we see that at concerts all the time. And so then we're like, okay, at the base of it, that's the sync, right? It's not necessarily about what we're going to do live. It's about the fact that music is essentially at the core of it.
Yeah.
Something that we all turn to for different kinds of, like, whether it's fun, inspiration, whatever, and community.
Yeah.
And I feel like we were very lucky because I feel like in response to your question, the thing that has really changed is I think brands are becoming more aware of the fact that integrations don't have to look the way that they
Yeah.
used to look at some point. It doesn't have to be a typical ad. I don't necessarily need an overwhelming presence, but what I need is to be able to create a resonance with my community.
Yeah.
Kind of like what Red Bull used to do or still does with culture,
Yeah.
right? And so when they reached out, I think they were also very accepting of the fact that we know what we do and we understand the music side of it, the production side of it. They know what they do in terms of consumer marketing, in terms of audience direction, all of that.
Yeah.
And it just came together to be like this really fun project.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is that I suppose the true success of this is when he starts playing this at gigs and people start
Yeah.
vibing to it, and like
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
it becomes a song,
Yeah.
which it is,
Yeah.
rather than something that was created for a brand,
Yeah.
which is more like the backstory that maybe somebody
Yeah.
may or may not know,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
I think we did have to navigate that a little differently, though. I think with him, the only really major association was Bacardi,
Yeah.
house parties,
Yeah.
right? And Bacardi never really could promote product,
Yeah.
right? So I think the first time you do it, or the second time
Yeah.
you do it as an artist, you will definitely see the good and the bad in terms of your response, right? And I think it was the same thing of like, some people are like, what an innovative campaign, and then some people are like, is this a Vim ad? And
Yeah.
you're like, okay,
But like audience speculation aside, I would consider this a win because what
sure.
A win.
what it a win, like what it shows you is that different brands are trying to come into the space and integrate music, and that just means more opportunity
Yeah.
for all of us,
100%.
Yeah.
which is actually great.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And to do it in a way where, like she said, it's not non-interfering, right? You like
Yeah.
let the musician do what they do best, and then like
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
together and
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's amazing. And each one of you, and Meher, in your case, your artist, have chosen to release your music independently and be independent artists, which I have to say, even in today's age, is a very sort of brave thing to do. But like, how did sort of having like a partner like TuneCore, how did this help you? We talked about highlights earlier. How did it help you sort of achieve the things that you did in 2024?
May I go first?
Of course,
So,
yeah.
so before we started recording, Hrishi was saying we're all entrepreneurs at the
Yeah.
end of the day. So you're facing a lot of challenges. Sometimes there's a lot of things going well, and behind the scenes there's a lot of things falling apart.
Yeah.
Your distributor is very important. Say I'm putting a song out, right, on the 5th of September. Behind the scenes, everything is fed in, your artwork, everything is ready. You're always at the edge of your seat going, what if it's the morning of the 5th and something goes wrong? Because, so I wasn't always on TuneCore. I was with a different distributor previously. And I could not just pick up the phone and speak to them, which was a huge problem because you'd be pretty surprised to know that it is very, very normal for your release on release day for something to go wrong. It could be the artwork. It could be that your release just isn't on one store. And after facing this 2-3 times, Eventually, I switched because of the bank, essentially, the way we withdraw money and whatever.
Yeah.
You're putting a lot of effort, a lot of capital, a
Yeah.
lot of things have gone into it. And if on the first day, as an example, my song isn't on Spotify,
Yeah.
I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
I've spent
Sure.
ad money, I've
Yeah.
spent picture on the artwork, the video's ready, XYZ. All of this has to go up as together, and now I'm making my landing page and the Spotify link isn't there. As an entrepreneur, my butt is on fire. I'm like, yo, what is going on? I'm
Yeah.
having the... So to have somebody that you can reach out to and speak to, and just in general, in terms of playlisting and them just being part of the ecosystem of music here, I think I'm having a great time with them. So yeah, I'm really
Great
happy.
endorsement for
Yeah.
them.
I think going with this whole entrepreneur analogy that we've established, I think your team is everything, right? And I feel like you pick people who are also supportive of a vision that you're building. And I think that's extremely important,
Yeah.
especially as creatives, right? Because there will obviously be enough people telling you that something doesn't work, something isn't right. And obviously, like we've been working with TuneCore for a while
Yeah.
now. I feel like you said, staying independent is already a task.
Yeah.
Now you need people around you who are really going to just make that task easier. I think having a team that is responsive, that is paying attention to not just growth digitally, but like as we saw, we did a TuneCore, we attended a TuneCore event in Delhi recently. Dorwin got a chance to perform. What you also witness is like a commitment to sort of furthering performance opportunities, which is also not necessarily the domain of a distributor, but is still coming together to build an ecosystem for the talent that they're also representing, right? And I think that investment, that thing of saying, listen, they may be your artists or you may be an artist, but you're our artists, that feeling is very, very strong. And so I feel like if you can find those people, hold on to them. Because it's a long journey, and you need people who will have your back for a while. And that's sort of what it's been. It's just like this commitment to saying, I got you.
That's amazing. Yeah. What about you, Hrishi? I mean, you've recently been working with...
No. My first drop se leke abhi tak it's been TuneCore. Yeah. So for me, TuneCore was user friendly. Like even as a beginner, for me, I was in my degrees. I was not. I was new to this business. So I made the song. It was very easy for me to put the song out. Secondly, I like the way they do the per track payment. Like I was not earning so much money in the starting, so per track basis I could afford to distribute my track. And thirdly, I believe in that it's better to build the catalog, and that's why TuneCore, distributing through TuneCore, keeping your rights 100% with yourself is a big part, and it in the long run it helps yourself. Yeah. So that's why I choose TuneCore for distribution.
And you're happy, which is the most
I'm
important thing.
very much happy.
Yeah. One of the things that when we talk about the challenges of being an independent artist, of course, is, and Akhila and I have a podcast called the Indian Music Charts Podcast, which I'm slightly sneaking a plug in for. But, but we discuss how songs become hits, and almost every week we're like, okay, now this song has become a hit because it's trended on short format video, and that has become so important to, I think, any sort of release campaign, right? But there's always this big question of like, how do you navigate this world, because it's so complex in a way. And I think that for when I say it's a risk being an independent artist, it's also because you have all these, you're competing in that big sort of wild world that is the social media landscape, with like labels and film production houses that have like, way more money and budgets than you. Yet you have to sort of figure out how to be innovative, because the good thing about it is that anything can go viral at any time, and there's no predicting what will work, and you could be the smallest artist somewhere, and then of course like vultures, they'll swoop down on you and try to sign you. But like, how do you guys go about it? I mean, like, how do you sort of, figure out making social media a place that feels not so intimidating, but feels maybe like a playground, where you can actually have fun?
Yeah,
I love how
Meher.
everyone looked at me.
Yeah,
Great,
Meher.
yes.
Yeah, Meher, tell us.
You know, I think my solution to this perpetually has been one, an awareness of who you want to be as an artist and who you want to be as a brand. Right? I think over the years we've witnessed a lot of artists do this in different ways, and obviously, yes, social media is now more prevalent than it ever was.
Yeah.
And so the dynamics changed a little bit. But I think the fundamentals have not, right? So my favorite example for this is like a Peter Cat. They're very conscious. Like Suryakant in general as a person, for everyone who has, you know, seen him perform, do his thing, he knows what, I feel like he knows where he wants to be and who he wants to be. And what that has done is generate a base of fans that will show up to every gig,
Yeah.
listen to every song incessantly on repeat for years to come. And in terms of content, I don't see them try as hard
Yeah.
to try and create something that will sell, right? It's very, very authentic to who they want to be.
Yeah.
Of course, the numbers look different, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sitting at a 1.5 million views or a 1.5 million followers on Instagram, and then, you know, it's just easier.
Yeah.
But those 30, 40, 50,000 people are core fans. Like, they
Yeah.
will stream everything.
Yeah. The
Right?
engagement is much higher.
Much, much
Yeah.
higher. Because they're very committed to the brand that they're supporting. Right? Now, at the same time, you have obviously a Divine, a Ritviz, a Nuclear. They've all done it very,
Yeah.
very differently. And if you actually look at each of their strategies, and it's amazing because the number of people who come to any manager in the scene and
Yeah.
say, you know, like, what is the solution? Honestly, we all know this, is that there has never been like a one-size-fits-all approach,
Yeah.
that especially for digital media.
Yeah.
So I think for us, the goal has always been to first decide who you want to be, what is the metric you're setting. In that process, let's say I want to operate at that field of like, I want to be at 2 million, I want to be
Yeah.
whatever. You will pay more attention to what we talked about in terms of like trends or in terms of, you know, how to make content that is sellable. If you are okay with being that person.
When you talk about, say, an upcoming artist, somebody like Dorwin, who you work with, has also gone about this in a
Yeah.
kind of innovative way. Like, you want to talk about how what he has, something called a no sleep gang.
Yeah.
What's that? Like,
It's great because I feel like both Ritviz and Dorwin actually, I think they've always wanted their voice to be very authentic to how they speak
Yeah.
in life. So Ritviz doesn't really post posters.
There's a lot of his parents, which is so cute.
Yeah, but that's his life, and
Yeah.
he's like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
So if he's announcing a show, he'll announce it with a picture of his dogs
Yeah.
in his living room, and that's his way of saying, hey guys, like, I'm going to be here and this is my thing. But I may not want to necessarily do like 8 shout outs of the same thing and see
Yeah.
people like skip it. With Dorwin, again, like, I think in general what he's been able to do with flips, and that was actually super interesting because that's how we discovered him as well, is that yes, he was doing covers, which I think is already a divided opinion
Yeah.
as far as the Instagram game is concerned. But I feel like what he did was really make those covers his own. And those flips were like very, very essential to
Yeah.
him becoming the artist he's become. And then that core following came from there. And so he really fed his originality, his sound into everything he was putting out. And that was his core. And now, like, on Instagram, he is who he is as a 24-year-old person, you know? Like, this no sleep gang is literally like, if he can't sleep at night, he will just put up a story saying, who's awake? No sleep gang, where are you at? And there are so many people in today's world who are not sleeping. And they'll all respond. They'll have a chat at night. He'll go live at like 1 a.m. Not timings that we normally think are like Instagram
yeah.
live friendly.
Yeah.
But that's his audience. And that's the other thing, is you have to understand who you're catering to. What do they want, right?
Yeah.
Like, have a conversation with them in a way that they actually want to listen.
Yeah, yeah. He's in a nightclub of a different kind.
Under
Sleep
25.
nightclub.
Under 25 nightclub.
So I feel, okay, let me preface this by saying we are in the best time for music. Like, if you release something really nice and have some sort of nice visual hook to it,
Yeah.
content to it, you have a very high chance of getting introduced to thousands of people who had no idea who you were. Which is why I am very interested to see how independent artists can use social media and should use social media to their advantage. So this is something that I'm very interested in, right? I will be the first to say this is challenging for me because I don't think very visually.
Yeah.
So to like shout out to someone like Lotika, who's a very good artist, but she's also a really good creative director who helps me with things like colors and outfits and XYZ. I always run my ideas through her. So now take a song that you have. You worked really hard on. The song sounds great. Now when I'm creating that visual hook, and I'm not speaking for myself, I'm speaking for all of us, I feel like we all need to think really carefully with what we put out. Some of the stuff I've put out has worked wonders. I put this song out called Jo Tu Mere Paas Hai. It was a dedication to my wife. I had some beautiful footage from our wedding, slowed it down, and I put it and made it part of the music video, and people loved it. And like the numbers went through the roof. People just loved it. It was a love song. It was simple, XYZ, acoustic, whatever. It worked. I put another song out called Bavra Man, and I had less time. So I put this really simplistic thing together, and for whatever reason, that just didn't do the same thing. Now for me, it has become a challenge to the same way I think about music, right? Like I want this song to feel like this. I've started to think about my visual content a lot as well, because to me that's extremely important. The number of people who discovered me through that song Jo Tu Mere Paas Hai, I want that to happen with material. So I have realized from my brand that beneath a certain quality, I don't want to dip. Like I don't want the quality to go down beyond this much. Maybe to some people it seems like, oh, this is very professionally done, but I have realized at this point in my life, I would like it to seem professional.
And what about like when it comes to hopping onto things like trends? How do you...
That's what I'm talking about. So one of the songs, it was a video like that. The one I'm speaking about that didn't, that wasn't up to the mark. Like it was highly cut. Like it was cut to every beat. It was me trying to sort of apply something that I saw somewhere, and made me realize that, you know what, a lot more effort, maybe a bigger budget would have done me much better. So every time I make this content, I learn something from it. Sometimes I feel like, yeah, this is awesome and people are loving it. And sometimes people are like, hey man, great song. Video looked a bit choppy. Would you like me to help creative direction? Yes, I would, bro. Yeah, so it's like a learning, you know?
Yeah. And Hrishi,
So for me, I had to educate my audience saying that if I'm from Kerala, so I had to tell them that, bro, I'm a music producer and I don't put my money to make music. I make music. This was the first thought I had to convey. Second of all, shout out to my brother Hrithik. He does all the artworks, all the videos he's directed. So having someone like him, it was a great push for my career. And it's really important how you put out your music, how the colors look, how effective how effectively you can convince a story through an artwork. I think artwork is not given that much appreciation. I feel like artwork explains a lot. And also Tyler, the creator, has explained this, bro. You're putting hours and hours to making an art which you love, and you don't even put out a story saying, bro, my song is out, or just conveying the story through a reel. You have to put yourself out and sell to the audience that, bro, ye hai kahani, this is how I made the music. So right now I started putting out behind the scenes, like how you created the beat, just to make the audience engage with your song. So
especially for a producer, I think that's like the best, one of the best kinds of sort of...
Unlike rappers or vocalists, we have to put that extra efforts to,
No, but I think that BTS sort of, how I made this beat kind of stuff is like exactly what I think people who follow producers are looking for, right? That's, one of the best.
It's sort of like pretty new in this country. Like art, I guess Mashable is doing that. Beat breakdown and stuff.
Yeah. And again, when it comes to things like, your own social media, because you are actually somebody who's more behind the scenes, right? You're not somebody who's like front and center. So for you, is it more of a challenge to sort of making sure people know who you are?
Yeah,
you know?
it's kind of, but I also do one thing is that I make reel cuts out of live performances
Okay.
I do, and I integrate the songs which I release.
Yeah.
So right now the track I dropped is Ambambo, and in EP I dropped. So what I did was I performed at Rap 91.
Yeah.
I did a couple of videos from. I got a couple of
Okay.
videos from that. I integrated that audio to this, and I put it up.
Yeah, and you couldn't miss you at Rap 91 because you were the hype man.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I was throwing water everywhere. I'm like, no, man, chup.
Yeah, it's like that guy. And because you were there for like everyone.
Yeah.
You came for like every purpose there. There was like Vedan, there was...
Because I produced
yeah,
for these boys now.
MC Cooper,
Yeah.
and like...
So everyone check out my news.
And, you know, while we wrap things up, I wanted to ask everybody, like, you know, what are your hopes for 2025? What are you hoping things will... How do you hope things will change and evolve in the new year? Slightly philosophical.
I knew this was happening, guys. I think my hope, and I think we've spoken about this in different forums now. I think my hope is really that the industry I think there's been effort for the industry to sort of come together in different ways, and I see a lot more of it happening now, which is beautiful. And as somebody who entered this industry when I was like 19 years old, and having really tried to figure this out at that time and age, I honestly think it's been so nice to see more community in this space.
Yeah.
I, for one, hope that continues to grow, and that we're actually able to collectively grow as an ecosystem instead of only pushing solo acts or solo careers or certain companies. Like, I feel like there is a upliftment that is happening, and we're in the midst of this beautiful revolution in the music industry, and I feel like it is now more than ever when all of us sort of need to join hands and be like, okay, what is step 3 now in that thing? So that's one. I definitely do think that there is a gap in the creative workforce in terms of like skilled labor. This is something I'm very passionate about, but I think that we're seeing more and more people enter the industry, but I'm still sort of seeing a lot of, for the lack of a better word, like jugaad approach to how we run. And I think now, especially with what I was saying earlier, with the international exchanges that are happening, with us working more and more with countries all over the world, there is a certain like way of working that we will also have to adopt faster if we plan on existing at that point. And that means a lot of upskilling. It means a lot of like detail-oriented work. Hopefully a lot more people who, are doing this because it's a business, not just because it's an exciting place for creatives to exist. For me, it's that of like experimentation with sounds. I feel like with what's happened in terms of digital and a lot of the things we're talking about in terms of trends, I think it's been exciting in 2024 to watch more people try and chase their own sound versus try and create things that are popping.
Yeah.
And I want that to continue into the next year and into as many years, into the future, of just like genres keep shifting, but I feel like even within genres, there's so much room for experimentation. And I hope that more people continue to do that.
Yeah.
Because the number of EPs that I also sometimes get, I'm just like, I guess this is one of the things they ask us as managers of like, what do you look for when you're signing someone? And like, that's such a typical question.
Yeah.
And I feel like, for me, it's that thing of like wanting to jump out and be like, fuck, that's new.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm, sorry.
No, I mean, that's exactly what I'm constantly asked, what kind of music, catches your eye.
Yeah.
And I was like, catches your ear really. And I keep saying it's something that I've never heard before.
Exactly,
Something that doesn't sound like
Yeah.
anything else. And, we talked about at the beginning how the artists have to be entrepreneurs. I think the new thing should be that the artist should be the genre.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are
absolutely.
your own genre.
That's so well
But
put.
yeah, Yohan, when we were discussing this earlier, you had some pretty interesting things to say about because you do a lot of production work and
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to elaborate on what she said, but before that, let me say, we are in a great place. India is in a great place.
Yeah.
We have a lot of independent music doing really well. Like, suddenly. This is
Yeah.
over the last, I want to say, 5 years. Some of my friends and my own music is starting to like really see great audiences and
Yeah.
people hop on board. As someone who first came to this city as someone like I was playing fusion music, Homie Lala and I. It was an instrumental band playing fusion music, something you'd never heard before. Exactly what we were talking about. And we were playing everywhere. And because of what we were doing, people were so intrigued and we got such great opportunities. This was us literally sticking our neck out to be like, you know what? And kudos to Homie for this, my bandmate, Homie Rustamji.
And this is a band called
The Family Cheese. Yeah, Homie, his whole thing was, we're going to make something no one has ever heard before.
Yeah.
And we're going to play fast and hard and we're going to make sounds no one has heard before. This really sort of pushed us into places in rooms we wouldn't regularly be in. So I feel like I want to see a little more of that happen.
Yeah.
What is happening, all love to the DSPs, but what's happening because of, say, playlisting and things like this is music is starting to sound a bit similar. You know, a lot of artists are starting to sound a bit similar.
Yeah.
And I miss that rebellious nature of musicians like Homie and myself and other musicians being like, you know what, I'm going to play this really obscure music really well and I'm going to make a scene for it. So I will say that 2024 has been a great year for music over here. Just look at the market, look at the bands coming. 2025, I hope indie music continues on this upward trajectory. I want to see some people experiment, be rebellious, and I want to see more brands like Vim and other brands be like, you know what, I want to integrate with this artist and I want to give them an opportunity. So I want to see more of the market be like, you know what, indie music is killing it and we want to join forces. That's where it's at for me.
I'm sure that's going to happen.
I think India is a place where mostly movie songs are dominated.
Yeah.
And those movie songs meaning there's no genre. Everything is movie genre. So I think that's changing. And if you look at the top 10 songs out of 10, almost 4 to 5 is independent songs. So it's a good time to be an independent artist. As well as that, you should be unique and you should be different from what others are putting out. So right now I'm experimenting. I've been traveling all over India. I've been going to places and making music. So recently I went to Rajasthan, explored some sounds, and I'm making Rajasthani DNB, which I don't think I have ever done. I never thought about it, but it happened naturally for me. I like the sound, I like the DNB. I just like, bro, let's do that. And I already have 2 tracks from South, which is DNB, but with Western vocals. So I think being unique, having your sound, and also in 2024, whatever I have put out, it's produced 2 years back. So for me, 2025, whatever I'm putting out, I'm promising you all that it's made in 2024 and it's fresh.
But what are your hopes? I mean, from an overall perspective for the year?
For me personally, I want to focus on more of live act. That's the main focus. Other than that, I'm happy, I'm good, I'm eating well. That's it.
And then my final question, and which is like one that you are typically asked, but I don't think we should not ask it because it always helps, I think, whoever's watching. And you kind of already answered this partially, but so maybe you can just elaborate on it. Like, what advice would you give to somebody who's starting their career, an independent musician starting their career in 2025? What would you say to them? And you said, one of the things you said is, be unique.
Personally, first of all, music is the primary thing. You have to make good music. Okay. Second of all, find someone who believes in you and who has a shoulder for you every time you fall back. Thirdly, find a team, or not team, someone who can make your music come into life, like someone who makes a good artwork, someone who makes visuals for you. Maybe in the starting you won't be able to pay him off, it will be more of a collaboration, but having someone who has the vision for you, who has the tonality, identity, who can sort of do the visual side of things is a really good way of going ahead. And I think it's better late than ever. Start right now.
That just made me think of something that I didn't ask you guys. But when we talk about the future, I don't think we can not talk about AI. And when you think about things like artwork, I'm not even going to go to like making music because I think that that's something completely different. But like, have you experimented with stuff like AI when it comes to the, like
I have
artwork?
released out of the 7 releases I had, two artworks were AI.
So then you
But
don't
it's not. But it's not proper AI.
Yeah.
You just take some reference and you just
but so
do
it
the
does
editing.
aid you, right? So even that idea, because a lot of people might say, you know what, I am in a small town, like for instance, and I don't have these people around me, and unless I make these connections online. But today there are these tools, right? There are these tools that help you sort of do stuff even when you're sort of like, like you said, maybe in a remote town.
Brand integration. TuneCore does artworks for you.
Yeah, so there you go.
TuneCore
I mean,
does
like, yeah,
artworks for
but
you.
have either of you, with either your artist or you, Yohan, have you ever, like, what is your perspective of the whole AI, especially as a producer?
Even the DAWs are integrating AI.
Synth
Yeah.
GPT, right?
Yeah.
And if you can, if you put out a song into the DAW and you can extract the vocal very easily. I guess FL is doing that.
But
And the synth chat,
Synth
GPT,
GPT, and there's something called lala.ai that you can just take out the
But
vocals or take out the drums.
It's paid.
It's paid or what?
Yeah.
I've never paid for it. I've never paid for it.
But neither of you feel threatened by it.
No.
At this
I'm
point.
confident.
I'll be at this point.
Yeah.
No, but I have heard such a beautiful version of Mac Miller singing "Gravity" on YouTube. Go check it out. That made me feel a little bit
But that's just
threatened.
like illegal, so I don't think you can even like go there, right?
Well, then don't check it out. Just leave it there. I like it.
When it
Please.
comes to AI, I guess even the intellectual property guys also need to focus on and make new laws and stuff too.
Yeah, they're making them. The labels are like
Yeah.
full on.
Yeah,
We're gonna
but-
So they have started doing something
Yeah.
called likeness, where the way the label can own somebody's music. I don't know if they've started doing that here. They can own somebody's.
What about
likeness.
independent
So,
music?
exactly. No, your likeness, for example, would be your features or your voice.
Yeah.
So when something does get made, they still get
Yeah,
paid.
they get paid.
So
but that's
in
it.
fact,
They've been
they
doing
are
that.
trying.
Look, lawyers.
Okay.
You said you come from a family of lawyers.
Yeah,
Their
so-
lawyers are on it.
That's how I
They're
know
like-
about this.
Yeah.
That's how I
Okay.
know about this. The not only the labels, but a lot of companies want to make the dough from
Yeah.
it. They don't want the money to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
So if you use, say, Beatles AI, the Beatles should still make their revenue. That I think is perhaps a better way to deal with it than just let us go, real.
But I mean, this debate is endless because I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of these things and a lot of tools that are implemented, and I'm not just saying with AI, I'm saying in general with the access that we've had,
Yeah.
there will be good and there will be bad. And this is like, I feel like there's still a 5-10 year thing of us trying to really be able to iron out the kinks that
Yeah.
exist in the usage of it. And obviously from an IP perspective, there's a lot. I mean, I heard about something that TuneCore had actually done when Andrea was down here, where an artist actually wanted to give their voice out. And like you said, they were being
Yeah.
paid. And I feel like the use cases of it are actually very interesting from a creative perspective. But like you said, the lawyers are on it. Our collectives are on it. And there's going to be a little bit of time before
We
that.
might not know the full implications of it right now.
Yeah.
Like perhaps right now the issue seems like this, but in 5 years we don't know what it's going to do.
It's always
how-
better to learn.
Yeah,
It's always better to
And
learn.
I feel like we will learn as we see
Yeah.
what all it affects.
You have to sort of, if it's as far as possible, sort of outskill yourself to a level
Yeah.
where
It's like
individual
internet
as
in the
well.
90s.
Yeah.
That's
fair
basically
enough.
it.
But you
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah.
I think just to add to that and to what you were asking earlier about advice as well, but I feel like this is one of those things where what really matters is like doing your homework.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I'm not just saying as creatives and as like, let's say to generate an album artwork or to, the fact that there are so many people who sometimes struggle with, let's say, writing a good email
Yeah.
to a label or to a manager or to anybody that they're doing outreach with. You now have tools that can do this for you, and what it does is it speaks very highly of the effort that you're also putting into communicating in a certain shape or form
Yeah.
that is appreciated, respected, accepted, right? There are times that I've gotten an email that just says, I'm sure you have the best stories about this, but you know, like I get an email that just says, please listen to song. and it will have zero information, zero
I
context.
mean, that's information to me. Listen the
And then
song.
what?
Sam.
Why should, like,
Yeah.
no, but the thing is
So-
like, okay, what do you want me to do with it?
Listen the song.
So, pieces of advice that you would give somebody starting out their career in 2025: do not send emails and just say, please listen to
yeah.
something.
Listen the song.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, like story is important, context is important. You're reaching out to someone, and investors will tell you this a lot of times, right? If you're actually pitching for investment for a company, startup, whatever, what is your ask,
Yeah.
right? At the end of the day, if I'm sending out an open-ended thing,
Yeah.
great song,
Yeah.
I've done your ask, right? But
Yeah.
it's not helping you, and you very rarely get second chances in those places. Like, it
Yeah.
takes a lot to keep putting yourself
Yeah.
out there, and for people to keep looking at you as somebody to invest in and spend their time, money, effort on, if you are not taking the step of putting yourself out in a certain way.
Yeah.
And I feel like this, whether it's the AI conversation or it is just in general an access to resources that we today have, there's enough information out there for you to be able to really show that you are committed to yourself.
Yeah. You know, you guys have used words like product and content and things that sometimes in my brain go like, why? Why are they using these words?
I'm going to go on a very different tangent, okay? So here's my 2 cents. I'm going to go out on a limb and say music is a really unique thing. Not everybody understands it. Do not take advice from everybody. They don't know what they're talking about. When I started out, people gave me horrible advice, and I am so glad that I had a strong head on my shoulders to be like, thanks a lot, uncle,
But
but
no
I
thank
think
you."
I will figure this out
Yeah.
as I go along and make the mistakes and slowly figure it out. The only way out is through. So
Yeah.
you just have to do it and do it and do it. And yeah, don't worry about anything else. Just keep going.
And I think that's a great way to wrap up, and wishing you all a great 2025. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
we're going to hear more of you and more of your artists, and yeah, we will, see you on the streaming platform, social media, wherever you want to be, live.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
for
Amit.
asking the right questions.
Thank you.